Hello, my name is Donnie McNichol of Team Animation, and I'd like to talk to you about our project leadership book. I'm going to give you an overview of the structure and content of Project Leadership 3rd edition, published in 2015 by Gower Publishing, with my co-author Sarah Coleman of Business Evolution. Just a little bit of background. I made contact with Sarah through a colleague. She told me that she had been asked to write a book by Gower on project leadership. We met, I shared some of the things that we were doing, some of the thinking, and we decided to work together in the book. So that process took a couple of years. It was actually a second edition of the book that already existed within Gower. It was done very well, and it was very highly regarded, but it hadn't been updated for many years. So we did a wholesale change to the book and added 2 brand new parts to it, part 1 and part 4, which I focused on, and part 2 and 3 Sarah focused on. Likely the best testament to writing a book in project leadership was the fact that we are now still talking, and we are colleagues and we work together, because it's been very easy during the project of creating the book for us to have fallen out, because it is demanding while you have got all sorts of other things going on. But it was an absolute pleasure to work with Sarah on this, and we're delighted with the end product, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of it now. So that's the cover that you can see. The book is got quite a, well, it's got a broadly, it's got 4 main parts, which you can see in the right. We actually had a visual created which allowed us to identify each of the different elements. We know nowadays people like to dip in and dip out. So in the introduction we actually created a single page overview of the book to allow people to go in and out. So why, let's go back to why a book on project leadership. Well, we have been of the belief for many years that the leadership aspects, the behavioural characteristics that make great leaders, are critically important to project success. And we felt that there was still space, if you will, to create and pull together another book, the 3rd edition of the book, which would capture a lot of the latest thinking about the leadership in the context of projects. And we still believe that's the case. We've tried to pull together references, case studies, and input from all sorts of different people. We're very fortunate to get some fantastic recommendations from the review at the beginning of the book. So we're absolutely delighted by that. And the book is done very well, and we've had the chance to share it with a lot of different people. So a little bit more just about the book itself. It's got 4 parts, which you can see they're identified here. So part 1 is project leadership and the project leader. So it sets the context. What is leadership itself? What is it in the context of project management itself? And also about some of the technical base for people to understand. So we talked about things like, what are the individual characteristics of people? What are individual leadership styles? How does it change because of the shape of the project? Or how does it change based on the culture of an organization? All of these actually will be the subject of different videos, separate videos on the topic. So that was part 1 of the book. Part 2 is then the role of the project leader during the key phases of the project life cycle. So broadly speaking, a lot of projects get 4 key phases, and we then talk about what the leadership characteristics were as a person leads a project through each of those key phases. Now, running in parallel with that, there are competencies that need to get applied from the start to the end of a project. There are many competencies, and in part 1 of the book we identified a whole series with different models and structures around what those leadership characteristics are. But what we would thought in part 3 was we would pick out 3 core competencies of a project leader. And again, we'll do a separate video on that, but the 3 were around visioning and creating that vision that someone could follow. The second was about creating relationships and important trusting relationships. And the third one was then about using all this to do good quality communication and engaging with people. So if you've got a vision, if you've got the relationships, then you apply some fantastic communication and engagement skills. So those were the 3 competencies that we covered in part 3 of the book. Part 1, there was a lot of new material, as was primarily part 2 and 3 used some material from the previous book and then greatly enhanced that. And then part 4 of the book was completely new. I was planning to write a book on developing project leadership, and this gave an opportunity to take all of that thinking material and include it within this book. So part 4 of the book looks at the development of project leaders and leadership. So there are different aspects of it. So it talks about, from an individual perspective, how do you develop your own personal leadership capability, and it talks about different models, competence structures, about the learning styles, and it takes you through a 4-stage process about how to actually look at your personal development. There's also a section for organizational leaders. So if you are somebody who is a community project management community leader or an L&D professional, there is a whole section as well on how do you develop the project leadership characteristics of that community. And it talks about the various aspects, one of them being models to allow you to understand, are we doing everything as an organization that we can to ensure success? And the last part, we actually included on details of an idealized project leadership development program. So rather than talking about these things, we thought put down what an idealized one would look like. And it is not uncommon to what I'm sure some of you will have experienced. And again, there's a separate video specifically about each of those 3 different aspects. So that was the book, and there is a model you will see to the side, which is a star visual, which was used through the book to give people a structure to hang all of the various parts of the book to. The next one you'll see is a whole series of 16 images from, we have done various things with the book. This is from an RICS APM Project Leadership Conference, and we actually pulled material from the book and created posters that were then put around the RICS's headquarters building, and the people attending the whole conference were then invited to walk around, look at the materials, ask various questions, get into groups, and then come back as an overall conference group and talk about it. So we've used the book in all sorts of ways. Needless to say, we use it with our leadership development programs as a source for coaching and mentoring and so on. But it's a rich source of text and material that we have. So just to finish, if you are interested, there is a 35% discount on the on the book, I should say. The book is now Gower is now part of Taylor & Francis. So the discount is through Taylor & Francis, which Gower is part of, and there are details there. And be delighted to hear from you if you get an opportunity to read it or flick through it at any point. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed listening to this video, and I hope you got value from it. Thank you very much.